Welcome to Connect Groups. It's the last week, and I hope you've enjoyed the last 7 weeks of Connect Groups together. Connect Group hosts and Connect Group leaders, thank you so much for what you've done for the last 7 weeks to make Connect Group happen. It is an honor for me and for Tom to say thank you for what you've done. Without you, none of this happens, and we don't get connected together. So thank you so much. So Tom, last week you talked about something.
I did.
Can you tell us a little bit about it and what you hope we got out of it?
Yeah, it was kind of a recap of the neighboring series in some ways, at least in the beginning. But then it began to take a look at what should be a very obvious question, but one that I think we don't ask ourselves enough, and that's why are we here? Mm-hmm. What is it we're called to? And I hope it was a message that has us evaluating mission. Asking ourselves, why are we here? What is it God has called us to do? What are we supposed to be doing, and are we doing that?
Yeah, and from this Sunday, Tom's main verses were Romans 12, 1 and 2. So I want you to turn to your phones, your tablets, an actual paper Bible where you turn pages, and find Romans 12, 1 and 2 and read it together and answer this question, which we've answered every week. What stood out to you? Answer that question, and we'll come back in just a little bit to talk with Pastor Tom. So Tom, you talked about looking at our mission, and you said a few things that could be hard for people to hear. Why do you think they're hard, and why did you have to say them?
I think that we get caught up in the flow of culture. There's just things that we do because they've always been done that way. We've kind of been conditioned, and I think serving Jesus in a lot of ways is countercultural. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes that stuff is difficult to hear. And so I think it can be offensive to us. It can rub our fur the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And I guess I know they say that the job of a pastor is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comforted. And I think this was one of those sermons that afflicted the comforted.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. And over these past few weeks, I think we've learned that neighboring isn't about our comfort. It isn't about us doing what we love to do or want to do. It's about realizing that we have a mission. And that's what you said on Sunday. We have a mission, and God's calling us to something. So, Tom, you talked a lot about where we live on Sunday and the neighborhood that God puts us in. And even you talked specifically about God calling us to maybe move down and in instead of out and up. And so can you explain that a little bit more of like what you see God calling us to as a community, to Superior? Well,
I think that, again, we are caught up in the natural flow of things. Mm-hmm. And so when you're a young couple, if you get married, you live in an apartment, and then you move to a house where you can raise your kids that's got a lot of bedrooms, and then the kids move out, and you've got the empty nest thing going, and so you move to a nicer house out in the burbs. And there's all a natural flow, a natural progression to that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think we've taken God right out of the equation. We mm-hmm. haven't even asked him where he wants us. And the natural progression is to move up and out. Mm-hmm. The only exception to that is the missionary. And who's the missionary? The missionary is the one that's very sensitive to the call of God. He knows mm-hmm. exactly what God has called him to. And he's willing to make the sacrifices necessary. So he moves to a foreign land many times. He moves to a lower economic state, and he moves generally to the inner city. So he moves mm-hmm. down and in, mm-hmm. and the rest of us, going along with the natural flow of things, move out and up. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just trying to get us to ask God where he wants us. Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you to move to a certain place or to move to the inner city, or you can't live out in the country. I just want us to ask God where he wants us. And I don't know that we've ever asked him that question.
Yeah, and I'll speak to this specifically because Kaylin is a missionary to the UWS campus, and we live off of a lot of generosity from great people. And it is that idea of we could choose to do other careers. Even as pastors, we could choose to do other careers. But we've chosen to live off of the generosity and faithfulness of other people in God. And that changes your perspective. And where you live, it can be a status of, I don't need God to put me anywhere. I've got a job, I've got the money, I can live where I want. And there's a faithfulness part of this, I think, that you got to on Sunday that's so important. God, where do you have us? What do you have us? Because maybe we can have the nice things, but we're missing out on the community impact that he has for us that could be so fulfilling in the future.
If we just would have asked.
Mm-hmm. So, Tom, obviously this was the last sermon in the series. Do you have any reflections for us on the whole series?
I do. First of all, how it challenged me. I felt like I was on the journey with you, and it affected the way I live in my neighborhood. Now it's changed the way I live in my neighborhood. It's changed the way I look at my neighbors. So I'm grateful for that. I'm very grateful for the response of the people that make up Central Assembly and how they responded to the Facebook group. There's 145 members in that Facebook group, and the videos that you posted that we were able to use as part of the service every week. That was so much fun. And the posts, the other people I just posted, the plus ones, I was just thoroughly impressed and very thankful for the participation of the people that make up Central Assembly. It really encouraged me, warmed my heart that you bought into that degree. You would take a card on your way out and accept the challenge of what we were asking you to do as far as the neighboring series goes. So again, I'm just thankful and thoroughly impressed with the people that call Central Assembly home.
Yeah. Well, again, I really hope that you've enjoyed Connect Groups, and as the series draws to an end, I really want to just piggyback off of what Tom said on Sunday. Now is where the real test comes in for us as neighbors. Is this series going to go beyond just this last Sunday? Are we going to be neighboring next week, next month, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, or even a year from now? What's the difference in your community that's going to be happening? Are you going to be a part of your community or not? And like Tom challenged us, are we going to continue to follow the same flow of the culture, moving out and moving up? Or are we going to ask God, what do you have? What do you want to do in our lives? And how would you have us love our neighbors as ourselves? So we thank you. I want to say thank you for all that you've done over the last 7 weeks to be a part of this series. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it as a part of our community, to see the outpouring of support for this series, but also to see us as a community get excited about neighboring and reaching out and loving our neighbors as ourselves. So Tom, you have the last word. Any last thoughts?
I hope that the Connect Groups, it was a 7-week series. My hope is that the Connect Groups will have one final week to get together just for a fun night, maybe a meal, and just enjoy each other's company without a study that goes along with it. And just continue to fellowship and grow in your relationship one with another. Thanks for being part of Connect Groups. You've caught the vision if you attend a Connect Group.
Yeah, right on. Hey, have a great day. We'll see you next time.